Welcome to a video about the pros and cons of shipping a vehicle. Now, most of this process and your research is going to be done online. And when you read user feedback, customer reviews of the whole process, you're gonna see one side where it was the most painless experience they've ever had. It was just perfect. And then conversely, you're gonna see about 1 million reviews where people said it was the most horrific experience they've ever had. It was like contracting a terminal illness, or they had a Lamborghini shipped and they got a Chevy Trax that was set on fire. So I'm gonna try to help you or walk you through my experience and some tips and tricks if you've never shipped a car before, how to do it. Now, for making car videos, I have connections with manufacturers, with the fleet companies that handle those cars. I could have easily made a phone call or sent a couple emails to find out who I should use, who I shouldn't use. But I didn't want to do that because I've never shipped a car before. I wanted to take it from the approach of being a Joe Blow on the street that wanted to do this for themselves the first time. So that's the angle it's from. Now, I'm one of those type of people that has to know how something works from A to Z to feel comfortable. Maybe it's a control problem. But this whole process for me was about as comfortable as walking around with a melted Cadbury egg in my underwear all day. So I'm gonna go through that right now. The first decision you have to make is whether you're going to ship your car open trailer or enclosed trailer. And like the name suggests, an open trailer means it's going to be on a flatbed or a multi-car carrier that is exposed to all the elements. An enclosed trailer is just what it sounds like. You load your car inside a semi, either a single, either by itself or with multiple cars. You close the doors and it's concealed. Now, as you would expect, the enclosed trailer is a lot more money and it takes more time to schedule because there's not as many of those types of fleets available. So expect a lot longer lead time for it to be picked up and dropped off depending on your location or where the car's at. Now, the part of the open trailer, there's a lot more of them. It's a lot cheaper. So when you take a car like this, it cost me $1,050 to ship from Reno, Nevada to Illinois. If I would have done an enclosed trailer, it would have cost me $2,500 for the same trip and probably 2 extra weeks lead time. Now, with an enclosed trailer, you don't have to worry about so many things like the paint getting damaged or the car getting damaged as much because it's enclosed, assuming the driver's competent and not, overturning the truck or, driving off a cliff or whatever. You're paying for that peace of mind. The second part of an enclosed trailer is sometimes the insurance is better. Their insurance works a little bit differently. So if you have a more expensive car and you have a little bit more of a budget to ship a car, or you have a vehicle you're so anal about you can't risk any types of cosmetic damage, you want to ship via enclosed trailer. Open air trailer. It can go two ways. It can go great or it can go really bad. And a lot of times you'll see people complaining, well, the car came damaged, and a lot of times it's how it's unloaded or loaded into the open air trailer. The second thing you have to worry about with an open air trailer is it is exposed to the elements. So depending on what time of year you're transporting the car, if you're driving it in winter, just because you don't get snow in California doesn't mean the driver's not gonna have to go through the mountains to get the car to you or go through a snowy climate. So while the car may be pristine as it's picked up, by the time it gets to you, it looks like it's been through hell. In the case of the S2000, it was exposed to all those elements. So I got it really dirty. And that's just what's gonna happen when you're dealing with open trailers. You can't avoid it. So it's something to know about it before you get in. Now, if you are going to ship via open trailer and you're so anal about it, you want to have paint protection film put on it or shipping film, the white strips that you see on new cars. You want to cover the dash, or I'm sorry, not the dash. You want to cover the windshield, the roof line, the bumper, the hood, the fenders, anything that can be exposed to the open air. If the car's put in forward, if it's loaded in reverse, you want to protect the rear. It just depends, and you want to do it before that car is shipped. So you're going to have to talk to the person who owns it, or you're going to talk to the dealership before it ships to make sure it's covered. So that's the first part. So now that you know that, you have another decision to make. Do you even want to deal with shipping a car? Do you want to pay the money to do all that? Well, in my case, some of the best car buying experiences were the ones where I flew where I needed to go and drove the car back, either with a friend or by myself. I love meeting the previous owners, especially if it's a cool car, or dealing with a good dealership that actually has everything's sorted out and they're good people. There's nothing better than that. I've made stops along the way. It can be a really fun thing. But if you're not the person that enjoys that, or secondly, if it's a really long drive and you can't take 3-4 days off of work to drive 2,000-3,000 miles, well, then you're going to ship it. The second thing is, even if you're somebody that likes to drive the car, well, I bought a used old car, and while I was pretty certain it was solid, there'd be nothing worse than being stranded somewhere in between 2,000 miles home in the middle of nowhere, trying to figure out how I'm going to fix this thing and get it back. Shipping it would have been a better idea to begin with. So that's something else to consider. Okay, you're ready to ship your car. What's next? Well, you need to know what type of services are out there, and most all of it's available online. And the easiest one for me wound up being finding a guy who owns his own shipping company, does the driving. I can communicate via phone, texting. I know where he's at. He's in direct communication with me, so I know when he's going to be there, when I'm going to be there. Easy breezy. But that's not always available. So your other options are a shipping company like Montway, who owns their own fleet and owns their own trucks, but they also contract out. Now, I'm not plugging them. I'm just saying they're one of the prime examples, one of the biggest ones you're going to see everywhere. When you own your own trucks and fleet, you have more control. But sometimes their fleet's not where they need to be, and they have to contract out to get your car. So you can go directly through them or a company like them to get your car from point A to point B. The next one are called brokered services. And brokered services are a company where all they do is contract out everything. They don't own their trucks. They don't have their own drivers. They just put a pretty face up and say, hey, we have insurance. We can handle all the back end work. You pay us. We take a fee, and then we pay the contracted driver, and you get your car. That's a brokered service. The last one is kind of like a bidding system service like UShip, and UShip is pretty much the biggest one. This is what I call a brokered service, because you're going to you're going to put in your information, put what car you have, the to and from location and the dates you want, and it's going to give you a whole bunch of companies and their prices of what the average price is. And then you can choose your own price and have them kind of bid on who you want to go for. Now on UShip, they will show you reviews of customers that have used different companies before. So you can kind of weed out the ones that have a ton of problems and the ones that have a lot of positive reviews. While UShip is extremely good, there are a shitload of paid reviews on there. The shipping companies will actually pay customers to write positive reviews to pad their review ratings. And this is where it gets into a total scam. Now you can sort by paid reviews, of course, but sometimes you just don't know what's real or not. In the case, I found my driver through UShip. And when I did it through UShip, he was trying to communicate with me on there to say, hey, I'd like to ship your car. But the problem with UShip is, as soon as somebody accepts your bid, so if I put, I want to ship the car for $750, the big companies have automated response systems where they're going to immediately respond and accept your bid, even though it's not really a real acceptance. It's an automated way to do it. They accept your bid and it locks everybody else out. Now, like my driver, he didn't see it for like 20 minutes, but because Montway has a automated system, they lock everybody else out of there. I can't get any more bids because they have already accepted it. I have to decline it first before anybody else can see it. And that's where it turns into a kind of a real headache for a consumer. The big companies have a big advantage, and they're also, the bigger companies are the one that pays for positive reviews. So what's the best way? Well, let's get into that. Now, the next thing is, if you decide to use a company like UShip or any bidding service, you need to know how to do two things. Weed through company reviews. Take a look at them. Just because there's 20,000 reviews on there with 98% positive really doesn't mean anything, because a lot of those could be paid reviews. I would look for a company that has, a couple hundred that are positive, where you read the reviews and you know they're real. Somebody says, hey, I own a Chevy Cruze, I live here, I was, really concerned about this, this is what happened. Just more real reviews that aren't canned like, excellent, bro, 2 thumbs up. That's just not helpful. So you got to sort through reviews. The second thing is kind of weeding out what it is you're going to choose in terms of pricing. Now, I can tell you one thing, don't lowball on price, because the broker that's going to do the deal, if you choose a broker, doesn't get anything. And if you have problems, dealing with them is gonna be a joke. They're just not gonna care. The second thing is the driver that they contract out, if they look at they're getting some bottom basement price, they're not gonna care. I mean, they might care, but chances are they're not gonna care as much about loading your car, unloading, and all the detail work that goes into it. If they're getting more money, let's just face it, you have a little bit more incentive to do a good job, and that's the way I look at it. I got quotes as low as $700 to do this, but as soon as I raised the amount I wanted to pay closer to $1,000, I had so many more companies willing to work with you. People were nicer all of a sudden on the phone when you talk to them about quotes, so it's just something to remember when you're doing this. Okay, you've decided on how much money you want to spend, the service you want to use, and you're ready to go. Now, before you click go, before you pay anything, you want to make sure that you have every single picture of that car before it ships. You know the condition. Once you click go and you pay your initial fee, there's two things about that. If you're using UShip, then you're going to pay an initial fee to them, and they are going to hold the funds for you until that car is delivered. When that car is delivered, you will go on there and say, I've accepted the shipment. You release the funds electronically, either to the broker or to the driver directly. They will get the money. And that's the nice thing about UShip, is they kind of hold those funds in like an escrow and release them when everything's all said and done, as long as you're good. Now, if you're not using UShip, a lot of times the brokers will take their initial fee, their commission, and when the driver drops the car off, you pay the driver in cash directly. It's a kind of a person-to-person transaction, which can kind of be dicey, because if you don't want to, if you're walking around with $1,000 in cash and then tip for the driver, you know, I don't know, some people don't like to do it, so it's something to note. UShip kind of eliminates that, which is kind of nice. The last thing about it is, when you get that car off that truck, if you want to be there. Some freight companies will not deliver to your house depending on where you're at, because these big rigs can't get in residential areas. So just because they say point-to-point delivery doesn't mean they're going to get to your house. A lot of fleet companies, a lot of drivers of big rigs will want to meet you in a Walmart parking lot or some strange place that's wide open where they can get those trucks. Be aware of it. Last but not least with that is make sure when that car comes off the truck or whatever you're getting, inspect it front to back. Because if there's any damage that you don't pick up on and you find it later, and you read this all the time, oh, I found damage to the windshield or the rear quarter panel was bent, you need to catch it right away. You have the bill of lading, you have the pictures, catch it then so you can file a claim right away. Because if you don't file a claim right away, your chances of getting the insurance covered afterwards is a lot more difficult. So do your due diligence there. Inspection, inspection, inspection. Good luck shipping a car. If you have any questions about it, post it here or contact me directly through the website. We can even do a live stream question and answer about it too in the future if people need it. But feel free to ask your questions here, and best of luck. Thanks.